Welcome to today's mainstream with Harpreet Singh Toor. आप सबको प्यार भरी सत श्री अकाल, नमस्कार, आदाब and shalom. Yeah, like I always say, get in touch with me at hstoor@gmail.com. It's important. We should have the conversation going on, especially these days, what's happening in the United States, and because of the actions of our current president, what is happening nationally, internationally, and beyond the borders of United States, Canada, and Mexico, which means Europe and Asia. A lot of things are happening. But first of all, India, actually, I just am reading, and I was just curious about it. Virat Kohli hit another 50, and India is in the final for Champions Trophy. They defeated Australia with 49.3 overs, which means 11 balls to spare. Interesting, but that's really interesting. But anyway, congratulations to those who follow the cricket like crazy, and to the Indian team. And also there is something, which I personally put on the social media, but I'm going to state here also. I personally believe that the actual congratulations to Indian team will be when these matches are played on either Indian soil or on Pakistan soil, and that's where India wins, especially on Pakistan soil. When India and Pakistan match took place, there were people, they were happy, there are a lot of people happy. Yeah, I was happy about India too, that okay, they did it, but by not playing in Pakistan and not letting play Pakistan team in India actually is fanning further the hatred which has been created by the politicians, for the politicians, for their benefit. It is like of the politician, for the politician, by the politician, instead of, like in democracies, they say for the people, by the people, of the people. But this is all about the politics. And some of the politicians who actually survive on creating hatred, that's what it is. And that brings me to also include the current president, Donald Trump, with the same, the hate against minorities, the hate against what we call anybody who doesn't look like their skin color, irrespective of the intellect of the person, whereas the world was actually moving towards where people have their rights, people have the freedoms and equality. Yeah, there are some elements which go to extreme, demanding their things on left and right, but majority of the people, they want the middle of the road, And sometime when they talk about, so-and-so, oh, you are a liberal. I'm like, how you define liberal? If a person looks for the equality and justice for, for everybody equal and all, what does that has to make a person either liberal or conservative? I was actually watching on CNN, I think it was last night, they were showing this guy in Indiana who got killed by the cop. What actually happened was that this guy was on the grounds of Capitol Hill on January 6th. So he got prosecuted for that. He was serving his term. Then the President Trump came in. He released all of them, giving them the pardon. And guess what? He was the guy, when he got stopped, the first thing he said was, he was trying to associate himself with the cop from that perspective, that you are defender of the liberties and I was also the defender of the liberties. which was not true on his part actually. So, and and he started talking from there, and the conversation went on for some time. When he asked for the driver license, he checked the driver license, and the driver license, the Indiana law apparently has that if you are caught driving above speed limit by certain number of times, it becomes felony. So the cop told him that it will be felony, and he actually, when the cop, was putting down the documents to arrest him, he ran into the car and grabbed his gun, and that's where the cop shot him, and he died. So what I'm trying to say here is the hatred actually, when it starts from the top, it spreads very rapidly. If it is not checked, if it is not counter-checked. And right now, I'm sorry to say, even Democrats are not really checking that hatred the way it should be. Maybe they are just saying that let him hang himself by letting him loose. Because if you try to defend some of the policies against what he is saying, the people are actually going to come to protect him. So I can understand that, and I do understand that. That's understandable. But at the same time, there should be some statements and some things. And that actually brings me to, because there is so much to talk about, I have so much from different things. That the freedom which was won one way or the other, World War after World War II, we have two axes, Russia and United States. On the one hand, we had US with NATO. On the other hand, we have Russia with the peripheral states, the countries around Russia. But there was always this war going on, which was called a Cold War. Even though after Gorbachev, during President Ronald Reagan's term, the German wall fell, the Russia, actually the way it was, USSR broke down, different countries went their own ways and things happened. But there was one thing which was agreed upon, and that was that NATO will not expand beyond certain point. So let me, before I go further into detail, let me say this thing. I'm not trying to defend the Russian invasion of Ukraine, not at all. But I'm trying to put some things in proper perspective so that the people who are watching this show, they can understand some of the things, so that whatever is coming following this conversation, they also may be able to better understand it. Okay? So one thing was agreed upon, that the borders, the NATO will not be expanded to the Russian border. But NATO actually, after some time, they felt that, okay, Russia is too weak now to do anything, so they started moving. And Putin, being a former KGB agent, he never forgot that. And he always planned how to increase the influence of Russia around its beyond its borders, and had never stopped working on that. And that's where this fight comes into the play, where Russia actually attacked Ukraine. So those freedoms which I was talking about at the beginning of the show, those freedoms are not that much there in Russia. Even in India, it's not there. Even in Pakistan, it's not there. In India, we used to have those freedoms, but since 2014, those freedoms are being chipped away one at a time. And I'm sorry to say that intellectual intelligentsia is falling in line also, because they are afraid to go, they may end up behind the bars because of their statements. And actually, this is where, historical judgments are delivered based on the actions of that time and period which we live in. Let us take a break. After the break, we will continue right here where we are living right now. Welcome back to Mainstream with Harpreet Singh Toor. So continuing where I left. So talking about the liberty, liberal and equality. So based on those factors, actually the Russia decided to attack Ukraine. There is another thing which I want to share with you. When Russia actually broke down and immediately the issue was to contain the atomic bombs, and that the fewer countries have atomic bombs, the better it will be to manage and control, because once you have that atomic bomb, two things are for sure. Number one, anybody planning to attack you will think more than twice, maybe more than even a couple of times, you know. And number two, it's a guaranteed protection of your borders. Okay? Now, Ukraine was given guarantees, including by the United States, that the borders of Ukraine will be protected. In 2014, Russia took over Crimea and nothing was done. And in one of my previous shows, I think after the war started, I did talk about it, that how at that point, Obama administration decided to start training the Ukrainian troops. So that was the reason, and that is the reason why after 3 years of war, Russia has not been able to take more than 20% of that territory, and that 20% also is like at a very, very heavy loss and casualties on part of Russia. And so the question then came in that, okay, Russia attacked Ukraine, 2014 Crimea, 2022 Ukraine. And I'm really sorry to say these things, especially for the people who really believed in Trump, voted for Trump. They think that he's really a god, a messiah, or whatever they think he is. When he says that he would have stopped the war, or it could have never taken place had he been the president, I don't know what he smokes or what he eats. I have no idea what he dreams about. Okay? To me, the way he is acting, it appears that he is an asset of USS, of Russia, of Vladimir Putin. Okay? Before I talk about the interview which took place in White House where they tried to bully Zelensky, which I will talk about for those people who did not watch it properly. I'm going to share that. I have this whole bunch of pile of papers today with me to talk about all these things. The Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, he actually ordered U.S. Cyber Command to stop all planning against Russia, including offensive digital actions, which means, you know, there is this whole unit which actually works day and night, keeping track of what is taking place via internet and how to protect, you know. And the interesting thing is, Mike Turner, a Republican from Ohio who is a congressman, a representative in U.S. Congress, he contradicted, and this is his statement: considering what I know, what Russia is currently doing against the United States, that would, I am certain, not be an accurate statement of current status of United States operations. And he is well respected on both sides of the aisle, which means among the Republicans and the Democrats. But But Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, changed him from being in House Intelligence Committee to some other committee, because had he remained in House Intelligence Committee, he was senior enough to be the chair of that committee. Okay, and the other factor which is here is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, acronym is CISA, monitors not only cyber threats but also about the elections and infrastructure. When I talk about infrastructure, we're talking about your power stations, where the power comes to you, further sending the power to local cities, and all those substations and stations, that is part of the infrastructure. And that infrastructure actually is under attack. Now, going to that meeting which took place in Oval Office, a few things which I'm going to share with you, which are really very interesting to talk about. One is that when the meeting was going on, this one of the press reporter, I will still call him a gentleman, even though he doesn't deserve to be called a gentleman, asked the President Zelensky of Ukraine that why he is there in not in a suit, but coat and tie and pant and everything. And I think President Zelensky definitely gave him a really good answer, which should have been given. And I definitely know why he gave that answer. Because being a son of a person whose dad was in army, and I have seen, I remember 65 war a little bit, but 71 war I remember like as the back of my hand. So I have seen the things. So when Zelensky mentioned to him that he is a war, he's a president of the nation which is at war, and he will definitely, after the war is over, he will dress up and maybe he will have a better suit than him. Okay? And while this conversation was going on, we had this Vice President J.D. Vance, 35 years old, and I have no idea what actually he was thinking, except one thing, that he actually is looking to be, because he knows after Trump, he is going to be the president by default, or at least a candidate for Republicans by default. So whether he becomes or not, that's a different issue. So what happened was, he actually said to President of Ukraine that he never thanked, and President of Ukraine, Zelensky, answered him that he has, and he really does. And when President Trump, some of the conversation may not be in the same order the way it took place, but something which I'm going to share, that then when he J.D. Vance said that, oh, you have not thanked, whereas President Zelensky has personally thanked so many times otherwise, which I have been reading about. And that's when when President Zelensky said that you have this wonderful ocean, which he was talking about, that how USA is protected because of the oceans, Atlantic and Pacific Ocean, because none of the country actually touches the border. Okay, we have Mexico and Canada, and these countries, they don't look, they don't think like a threat, and nothing like that. So Trump really took off at that point, telling Zelensky, you don't have no cards, you're playing cards, you have no cards, and your country will be run over in a couple of days. And that's when President Zelensky said, well, Putin said 3 days. He repeated that twice. That's what I heard, maybe more than that actually he did it. Because everybody in the media, even outside, Europe, USA, everybody thought same thing, that Russia will be in Kyiv, Ukraine's capital, within 3 days. Let's take a break and we will continue right here where we're taking a break from. Welcome back to Mainstream. So at that time it was literally was like Russia is such a big deal, and Ukrainians, hats off to them, they actually fought and they are still fighting, and there are soldiers who actually lost their limbs during the war, after recovering with artificial limbs. They are back in the war fighting against Russia. They are so determined. And actually that fight is not about Ukraine alone. It is the fight of Europe to stay free and fair and independent. Yeah, there are few like Orban from Hungary who is more like towards Trump and Putin. There may be one or two more people. There are some elements in each country where they are looking at extreme right, if I may say so. But overall, the freedoms which they have, remember when East German and West German, two different words, when that wall came down, the lives which took place, the changes in the lives of the East Germans from that point, if we really go and ask them, then we would know that what they were experiencing before and what they have now, which they were missing at that time. Of course, everybody misses some of the parts. Everything is not perfect. But overall, when you start looking at it, where you were and where you are, and what's the difference, and how would you look at it? So having said that, so they are fighting a war in Ukraine, not just to protect the Ukraine, but they are fighting the war to protect the rest of the Europe as a continent. Those freedoms. Now, if we really start looking further into it, how these things are going to change, okay? American way, I have been reading, is some of the people who actually are supporting Trump's idea of breaking away from NATO is that Trump wants to have, again, bipolar world, one USA, the other one USSR, and China, again, to push China out of the picture, use USSR, okay? Russia. Now, the question is, for me, the Russia is weak as compared to China. No doubt about it at present, okay? So how Trump will prop up Russia to be a better force than China, I don't know. But could that happen? I don't know. Maybe these are the calculations these people make. But at the same time, we have to look at that Russia, such a huge country with such a numerically big population, they could not defeat Ukraine with less population and much smaller country. And the innovation which took place actually in Ukraine after the war, Ukraine actually is producing more than 40% of their required ammunition and everything in Ukraine, whereas when the war started about 3 years ago, it was less than 10%. The war has changed, the techniques have changed. In the beginning of the war, it was all about the old way, trenches, hand-to-hand fighting, moving up, putting up, digging up trenches, then moving up. But now it is more with the, not with the trenches anymore, but it is the drones. And how the drones are actually affecting? Drones are being used. Okay, I'm going to read exactly the difference. In 2022, Dragon's Teeth, those are the which are used to stop the tanks from moving. Howitzers, tanks, trenches, howitzers, minefields. That was, 2022, where the mines are put up for the anti-tank, anti-human, and all those, that stuff. By 2025, which means by February 24, 2025, the war is now, it is attack using drone pilots, surveillance, again drone, people sitting somewhere, they are monitoring those drones. They use the jammer system for that, and they are putting up netting around the tanks and armored carriers, so that if the drone is coming to hit, instead of hitting the tank or the armored carrier, it will hit the net, and the damage to the vehicle will be less as compared to if it gives a direct hit. So that's how the war actually has changed since then. And Ukraine, yes, Ukraine needs help. And as soon as President Zelensky left United States, where Marco Rubio, who was an ardent supporter of protecting Ukraine, providing everything what Ukraine needs for the war, to be a total Trump loyalist, he was the one who was told to go and tell Zelensky to leave from the White House after the meeting, which Zelensky did. And when he actually landed in England and met Sir Stammer, the Prime Minister of England, in 10 Downing Street, he was received by the Prime Minister outside his residence, 10 Downing Street, and the people actually received him. It was a rousing reception, and immediately he was given £2.2 billion as a loan. And then next day they had a meeting of European leaders, NATO leaders, if I may, to make it more precise, that they will actually support Zelensky in this war, because they understand that the war in Ukraine, the Zelensky war which he is fighting, it is a war to protect the Europe. If Ukraine is gone, then next it's going to be Georgia, Poland, and Estonia, and all those small countries around there. Okay? So they do understand that. And that's why they are. And not only that, actually, European Union President, I don't have the name right now, she actually declared earlier today, or maybe last night, that Europe is already planning a $990 billion overhaul to create its own protection apparatus. Yeah, there is something which I want to also add here. When President Trump, he's a liar to the hilt. He lies to the hilt, no doubt about it. Honestly, people, they may not agree with me. They may question me on that. But look at his statements, look at him, what he does. And he's such a big liar, lying all the time. And that reminds me, actually, during World War II, I think sometime around that time, Hitler was the one who mentioned that if you tell a lie 100 times, it becomes truth. And that is happening in social media. That lie goes even faster than 100 times, and it sounds more like a truth. So what is happening here is NATO is being unplugged from United States. Canada and Mexico, because of tariffs, is getting unplugged from United States. Canada has announced counter tariffs. Mexico is going to announce counter tariffs. Okay, it's a flimsy ground that fentanyl came from from Canada into United States and from Mexico. Yeah, Mexico, the Mexico border supplies more about it, but no doubt about it. But nothing from Canada as compared to it. But that was an excuse for Trump. So let us take a break. After the break, we'll talk about how this break can affect geopolitics when we go into the next session right after the break. Welcome back to Mainstream. So after these separation, let's talk about what America is going to lose, what America gained. You will see, probably you remember, there used to be ads from Wall Street showing the prices going down. The reason was because manufacturing of, the cheap manufacturing, which you don't need high tech, it was taking place overseas in China, some of them in other countries, and from there it was being shipped. Your household goods, that's why you see a lot of stuff, manufactured in China, South Korea, Japan, okay? Because it is produced, the labor is cheap and it is produced cheaper over there, okay? That will be one thing, that once a product is manufactured here, you will have, it is expensive labor, and those products will be expensive, okay? Now with the tariffs, I have discussed it so many times and I will say it once again. Tariff actually is indirectly and directly both taxing you, individuals. I have this jacket. If I bought it for $500, with the tariff it will go up $50, $200 depending on how much tariff. The car which you have driving, the manufacturing of the cars between Canada, US and Mexico was so much integrated that the cost will go up. Canada just announced tariffs up to 100% on Tesla cars, which means a car which costed only $40,000 in Canada, the Tesla, it's going to cost $80,000 now, okay? Which means the European manufacturers and Chinese manufacturers of electric vehicles will enter Canada. The Canada has already started shipping its oil and gas through another route to China and Europe. That gas and oil, which we here in America, we are so much independent of all this now, that we actually export oil and oil products and gas to other countries, okay? It will become expensive now, okay? The cheese, the beef, the meat products, you name it, the cars, any product which you use, it is going to get expensive, okay? We are just talking about the eggs, just wait for the other stuff also, okay? And then Canada is already planning to have tariff. Ontario actually has already said that they are going to put up 25% tariff on electricity, which is the main energy source for New York and North, which means Michigan, New York State and New England states, all that electricity, it's hydroelectric power, and it comes from Canada. And if they put up that 25% tariff, which means the car production is expensive, your housing electric bill will go up, your charging of your, even if you have Tesla, the charging for your Tesla or electrical vehicles will go up, the street lighting, their cost will go up, and ultimately those costs will be recovered either by cutting the services to you or by raising the taxes on you. So that's one effect. The other effect is Canada and United States, it was never thought that it will reach this point. It is at that breaking point. It will take generations to rebuild that kind of trust. And I doubt if that trust will be the way it was at all, even if we spend another 100 years to rebuild that trust. Okay? So with that note, now we are looking at a more understanding, more supporting Europe and Canada, and then automatically this is going to benefit India, whether, directly or indirectly, because the industries were already moving away from China to India. There are issues of tariff between India and the United States, but Trump has targeted India, but not to the extent. I think one of the reasons is because India still is not trade-wise where these three countries are, Canada, Mexico, and China. So that will be another thing. And another issue here comes in with the high tech. The European actually did, especially England, they stopped producing their own fighter planes after the fourth generation. The reason was because there was a mutual understanding that we will provide some sort of funding for further development of the fighters within the United States. And once it is developed, the British, they will buy it from United States, which was a very high value export. They restarted their work on the planes in first Trump's term, but now they definitely are going to pursue it more aggressively. French already have their own Rafale. Swiss already have their Gripen, and they already have really good fighter planes which are more suitable to that area. So they are going to spend more money on that, and ultimately all that export which goes from United States to those countries, that will stop. That will be another biggest blow to American defense industry. The things which we have, which we feel proud here in the United States of having, high-tech industry in everything, that actually is being slowly but surely was shifting. But now the pace of that shift will be much higher. Europeans have started their own launches of the satellites. So they will push every launch from their own stations. Some of the launches take place from India, so they are going to go there instead of coming to the United States. This is what the tariff war is going to bring us down to. That United States, you and me, we are going to pay a very, very heavy price for that. And also, coming down to the local New York news here, those who haven't heard so far, if they haven't, the former governor, Andrew Cuomo, has announced his run for New York City's mayor. So it's a very interesting race. And that again brings me to one issue before we go for today's show. That even though Trump's Department of Justice, told to drop the case against New York City's Mayor Eric Adams, and the judge was told that, okay, Department of Justice wants to withdraw the cases against Eric Adams, and those were the reason why Eric Adams actually went to Mar-a-Lago, then met Donald Trump a couple of times. The judge actually refused to do that. He said, I'm going to give it to an independent person to look in detail of the merits of everything and then recommend to me, which means indirectly judge is saying, no, I will not dismiss the case as easy. And here comes in Michael Flynn, who actually served some time, who was actually charged with some of the crime within the defense industry, within US Army. And he actually wrote to the judge that judge has no authority and right to stop what DOJ tells the judge. See, that is something which I always talk about in this country. This is something unique in this country which we need. And yeah, we saw what happened to Republican in the Senate. They all has kissed the ring of the king. We already knew what is going to happen in the House of Representatives. Okay, Democrats were staying low. The only branch, the third branch, was the Justice Department, the judges, and they are still standing, taking stand, right stand. We may agree with it, we may not agree with it, like the Senator Kennedy said to one of his colleagues in the Senate, that the judgment which is given by the court has to be accepted. You may like it, you may not like it, you have the right to challenge it, but you cannot say, no, that I will not accept this judgment. And I'm still counting on some of those voices to rise to the occasion and keep the democracy the way it is, keep the freedoms and liberties the way we are enjoying. Till next time, good night and good luck.